Good night, everyone. I hope everybody's doing well, blessed, and enjoying family. As always, thank you to all for everyone's words, wishes, prayers, as the love and support everyone shares and sends my way. From the heart, gracias. Also, do please like, share, subscribe, and hype to the message. Gracias. While on this one, I do want to touch on a camarada, right, from Latin Kings. There's been a lot of myths, on how certain things play out in the feds, and I'm not disputing them, right? At the end of the day, everyone has their own story. But I've been meaning to touch on a few camaradas, right, that me personally, throughout my almost 24 years in the system, my personal experience with them. So, on this one, I want to take you back to the feds. When I had already been sent to the feds, it was 2017, somewhere there. And, anyways, when we were on the yard, there was about six kings there on the yard from Chicago. We didn't get along, not one bit, but they stayed in their side, mainly because maybe the numbers game, right? But nevertheless, you know, we kept it pushing, respectful. Of course, the Peeleys on the yard, they had their own things to do, right? There was a lot bigger factions to worry about. Texas, DC Blacks, you name it, right? But anyways, around this time, a camarada arrived, right, from Main Street, East Los, and he claimed the 13, right? And let me first say, first and foremost, the homies from Latin Kings, they're camaradas, they're campuleros, you know. There's a big saying, they branched off from Chicago. I wouldn't be able to tell you that history, right? From Northern California. So I don't know it to the dot, my respects. But the key word here is they branched off, you know, because at the end of the day, I stated it before, we could be from any neighborhood. Our neighborhood could have ties to China, but it don't mean we're the same, right? We are what we are. Our politics are what they are. We leave our neighborhood in the gate. We're Southsiders, Sureños, Campo, you know. But anyways, this homie hit the yard, and he was doing a lot of things personally, mostly for Peewee. But he was in touch with a few Peelies. According to him, he had been in different places with different Peelies, but the ones he stayed in touch with the most were Peelies around this area, around the Bull Heights area, excuse me. And, the homie, he had, his tags represented his neighborhood, but he also had the 13 on him, right? Now, when he got there, even though there was six kings there, he asked, and well, at least Sana right away told him, you know, we ain't we ain't cool with them individuals. So there was no hesitation, right? The homie was a homie. He stayed where he belonged, right? He's a sureño. And, after a little while, Bugsy arrived there also from his neighborhood. And Bugsy was Green Eyes primo. I met Green Eyes a long time back, right? Back in Tehachapi. And he was also from East Side, Latin Kings, and again, my utmost respects. I'm not gonna state how the homies felt, but you know, again, the key word here is branched off. At the end of the day, it's game banging. You could be from LA and your neighborhood could have the same name, but you could start biffing even though, you're a block away from each other. Sometimes cliques tend to do that with their own neighborhood, right? But anyways, getting back into the homie wow, within time he basically addressed some things that were going on with Peewee, which was to try to get in with the Latin Kings from different areas in the states, right? And see if maybe we could work something. When the Latin Kings are deep on the yard, it's war. Period, point blank. You know, I lived it firsthand in Florence, Arizona. And anyways, excuse me, he would get the okay, not just from Sana, from Joe, from I believe Chino. Anyways, Majority gave him the okay to try to get close to the Vatos. To be sincere, I don't even know if they were all from Chicago. All I know, them six, they were tied right on the yard. And the Vato, or excuse me, the homie Wild, he at first it seemed to be going everything cool. He was beat around the bush. Like I stated, he wasn't just under Peewee. He rode or was in touch with a couple camaradas, Craig Kid. I believe Shy. Well, numerous. His main Billy was Peewee, right? I don't want to go off and just. And the thing they were working at one point was the same thing in a different spot. Maybe they could be peace treating that could lead into some money making. And anyways, everything was going cool, right? Nabato would come out, pay his respects, address Sana or whoever with what was going on, and he was pushed forward to secure to the Latin Kings, right? The six individuals, and it was all working out. They weren't that deep at that moment, right? That I was there, and some of them they got high, so they were bringing money to the table. So, anyways, things were moving along, the proper way, that way that him and Pee Wee foreseen it wherever they were at together. I believe it was Victorville, but don't quote me on it. And anyways, everything was cool, just until that moment. that we tend to do that too all over Cali, anywhere. You get high, you're moving highly, it comes with the territory. And you should know that, right? There's always going to be somebody that is fatty that's going to fail. Either by him, his family just got tired, his girl, whatever it may be. And our politics is real clear, right? I'm going to give you, for example, he sold a couple grams to them. You know, this was Sana's work too. Sold a couple Holly, and the homie asked, the homie had a big trece literally in his hand, right? LK 13 well, on his hands, where you could see it, read it. And he asked him, hey, so what's the guidelines to fronting him this? And, of course, that same go around, hey, right here, your mouth is your credit, but it will be collected. You decide the way it gets collected, right? And I tell you from first experience, I was always clear with camaradas. Whenever I hit, which was, I'm not gonna say everywhere I was at, but most of the place I was at, I was touching something, you know, and I always made it clear the same way, tu boca es tu medida, your mouth is your measure. Whatever you tell me to give you, I tell you, you got 20 days though, not even my feria, you know. Well, that was before I learned, to be honest. You know, after a couple times, you have to put steel in individuals. You come to learn, and basically be like, hey, some island might be coming in through an angle this weekend. Whoever gets their feria out there is the one that's going to get blessed. So you started getting the money orders at my time, right? Before the hale was given to them. That way you avoid problems. You know, you get to enjoy your high. I get to enjoy the reasons I'm taking the risk, right? But you gotta understand Billy's, they have their own mentality, like nobody's gonna backstab them, nobody's gonna betray them. They ain't nobody have that nerve to do so. But one of the Latin kings, they paid 2 grams. One of the Latin kings that was supposed to pay the third, his feria fell. 20 days went by, and the homie Wow, when he addressed this, was told what the guidelines were, and it's ours, that's how it is, and if you're selling or you're moving Billy's dope, there's no difference. You got 20 days. 20 days come up, you don't have it, you got another 20 days and it's double. You don't get it to me by 20 days, I'm coming to collect. However means it means I have to collect it. So homie Wild, right, from his laws, he told these two individuals, and I guess, I won't guess. Everywhere I went at has been up with Latin Kings when they come from, being from East Coast and whatever. So I don't know their politics like that, right? And I'm more familiar with Norteño politics and stuff because that's a background, that's Cali's, is Norteño raza and Sureño raza, bulldogs, and we tend to learn more, right? from them, I don't know how their politics work. I don't know if they treat each other like that. But again, the homie was a campolero. He never questioned it. He never hesitated. He was doing everything right, which was trying to pull gente into buying material from Billy's. He was doing what he was supposed to as a sureño. But I guess these individuals did not like that, you know. When the next 20 days came up, he basically sent him over there and Sana and Frankie, Sana's right here, man. Myself and others were set, you know, like, hey, you go collect. If they don't have it, tell them it's cool. Tell them, all right, just leave it alone and walk off. And then we'll collect. You know, there's six of them. We could come up with the $300 of the gram, you know, amongst all three of them, the money will come out. So, anyways, I guess the homie went in that plan, you know, told him straight out, hey, you got the feria? No, I still can't come up with the feria, you know, that supposedly try to drag on King Love, and you know how you hear a lot from Cali, Latin Kings too, you know, that King Blood Love, whatever. My respects to that. Yeah, all I know, they're homies, right? And basically told him, okay, you don't have it. All right, we'll collect. And he turned around and tried to come back to the other side where we were at. But the Latin Kings were ready, you know, because again, my utmost respects. Nobody's in prison for being punks, you know, for not having a set on them. And the Latin Kings were prepared, and they whacked the homie wild. They whacked him pretty bad too. You know, when we seen them jump on him, of course, you know, our reaction is ASAP, right? We're already paying attention, so when we seen it, boogie, we started putting it on second gear towards where they were at. But when we got there, it was pretty much over, right? Too many hoodas and stuff. And anyways, you go through the little phases, you know, investigation, lockdown, whatever. And it was discussed amongst all camaradas, you know. Homie Wow left. You know, I never seen him again, to be sincere, after he got whacked. But it was discussed, or it was inputted by the police, you know, when we come out. If any one of these individuals on the yard, or any Latin king that don't belong from Cali, that don't have that 13 on him, as a camarada, then they're good to get whacked and removed. We don't want them on the yard. And you know, when a police says they're not to walk amongst us, then it's boogie time. They're not to walk amongst us, period. And you got to give these individuals credit, you know. The three that stayed behind, that didn't leave for the incident, came out to yard. You know, we knew they were strapped, they were waiting, but they were bitches, excuse me, they were outnumbered terribly, you know, by us, to be sincere. And there was no but to ribs, you know. We came out, we said our saludos, you're okay, everything's good. If you need anything, let me know. The pilis to one side, and all the camaradas, como mi, migas, Asquiles, red fire ants on them, and it went bad for them. I'll be honest, when things happen, I was still lost. I met a lot of camaradas from Latin Kings, and for example, I met Green Eyes, I met um, Brown, and they were, you know, they were sureños to the bone. But I also met Smurf, Puppet, and they had to put that believe that Latin Kings is Latin Kings, just states run different politics, but East Coast don't look at it like that, you know. And so I was at a loss. I'll be straight with you. I got a little bit of an insight better by Sana, right? And basically, that's exactly his words that I mentioned to you. Yeah, I guess two individuals started it on A Street, where Wow was from, and they were from Chicago, but they still didn't have the 13. Once they picked up pace, they picked up the 13, right? The homies. By them picking up the 13, they were putting down the flag of the mentality of Latin Kings, straight up. How you gonna pick up something that the main individuals are at war with heavily in the feds, right? Or anywhere for that. In my state time, I ran across two Latin Kings from Chicago, and they both were whacked and rolled up. They weren't snitching or nothing, but they weren't allowed on the yard, you know. So it was to be inspected what ended up happening to what I understood, And then he told me, hey, Chino, you got to remember, I might be from Orange County, but at the end of the day, I'm in here. I'm from La M, and before I was from La M, I was a homie. All camaradas leave their neighborhood in the gate. You have the 13 tattoo on you, Campo Sureño. That's all that matters. So, anyways, the reason why I'm telling this story is because, I would end up getting out again in the system. I did not see Wild no more. I ran across Wild in Tijuas. Yeah, it was in Tijuas. He was there with the homies, right? Still pushing that Campo movement, and he definitely had a choice of words when it came to Latin Kings from the East Coast, excuse me. To him, there was East LA, Boyle Heights, Sur 13, Latin King Sur 13. The rest, even though we they branched off them, to him they were fake. All that disrespect, of course, with that comes with hate, right? And it was just a trip how he was holding it down still. And I wanted to touch on this because I remember a long time ago I heard a few videos that got put out about the camaradas from LA, Pasadena, all over LA County, Fontana, all over where they're at, right? And there was a lot of youngsters, claiming that it was all the same thing. And don't guide yourself. Don't allow yourself to be misled. You know, you go in the system. All that matters is that you're Sub 13. For example, I'm Chino from PSC Sub 13. All that PSC, and as you get personal, it comes out. At the end of the day, it's go time when it's go time as a Ramfla. You can't sideline. If it was like that for reals, as many people try to put out, that Latin Kings are the same, and you don't think any incidents if they sideline with Latin Kings and kept it peaceful with them and we went up on war with them, the big homies will not greenlight them. I mean, think about it. They greenlight for everything. But I just thought I touched on it, just showed a little in look, This is one of the other myths that I tend to tell everyone to stay trucha on. Don't allow certain people get out with agendas. Start running myths and misbeliefs and ingrain them into you. Because you're gonna go in and have this heartaches that things are not like that. Remember, the only thing that matters as sureños, as all the Latin Kings from California are, I have not met not one that's not with the business, right? For reals. And that's just, I'm not speaking or pumping them up in any way. I'm just being sincere with everyone. And it's for the causa. They're not going to lower bandera down in the feds, especially with somebody trying to go after the big homies and the rest of the camaradas. It's part of the Tecato mentality. Remember, there's a lot of people that they want to catch your attention. Like, oh, really? Wow, I want to learn from you. I want to get close to you. Hey, got some dope. You want some dope? Then there's the angle. Them individuals that come out to lie and mislead their own neighborhood, their own homies. They're out to get something. But again, asking, it's always in the right of Sureños. So with this say, my utmost respects to the Latin Kings 13, you know, and to the Latin Kings from the East Coast. Because you got to give them credit. They could be outnumbered, but they would always buck up, for their beliefs, and you can't but respect that. But the facts are the facts. And again, the key point is always we branched off and we adopted Sureño politics. It's why the tres is there. So again, for those that haven't been there, for those that have, know exactly how everything run. And this was a time before Smiley. Yes, I know about Smiley. He was a camarada when I was in the system, and he got made, and he did what he did, but I had not personal run-ins with him. That's why I'm speaking on my personal walk. I heard Wild would end up getting smoked by Los Aretes in Tijuana, which is a shame. He was a good camarada. Nothing more, nothing less than every other camarada. I think it's real important, to pay attention when somebody tries to put a gap, a difference between we're Latin kings. We just have the 13, or we're this, but we don't claim the 13, but we're on your side. And there's individuals that try to get up in there and spread poison. But this is just my look on this one, how Will Camarada went off of that, I could get in with the East Coast Latin Kings and try to push our politics on them, and it went bad for him. And at the end of the day, there's no need to talk about what happened with Aretes, but you know how Mexico does things. Can be trucha. Be careful on those attempt to get up in your head. That's the whole reason of the message in the end. Look, stay true to yourself and loyal to your loved ones.